Hey guys, welcome to another video. So today I thought I'd do something not too fancy and just go through some of the standard options that come with the CLA 45 and some of the optional extras that you should or shouldn't pick, plus the options that I've got in mind. Now, to begin with, it's probably a good idea to tell you which CLA I've got, because since they came out they've actually had 3 variations. The first generation of CLA 45 spanned from 2013 to 2015, and then they had like a mini update slash facelift, whatever you want to call it, and then right at the very end of 2016 they had the full facelift. I think they've called that the 2017 CLA 45, so it's all a bit confusing, but there are subtle changes between all of them. So this one here is the 2016 one, so it's the middle edition. So the main changes from the first generation to this generation were mainly interior based. So from the outside the cars look the same, literally nothing changed, but in terms of the interior you had the new style steering wheel which followed through in all the classes. The screen was made bigger, just standard. I think in the first generation you had to pay extra to have a slightly larger screen. So the original screen was like, I think I mentioned it in a different video, like 5 point something inches. It was absolutely tiny and it looked ridiculous for a car of this size. So now it's about, I think it's 7 inches. It still looks out of place, this whole floating design. I don't really understand it. It looks like an afterthought really. Another big change was this exhaust button. Obviously you need to have the performance exhaust to even have it in this model, but before, if you had the first generation of CLA 45 A45, the valves would only be open in, I think it was Sport Plus, whereas now you can control it. You can be in comfort and you can, by the touch of a button, you can have the valves open or closed, whatever. They also changed the drive select option, so I think they had a different name for it. Now it's called like the dynamic drive select. It's supposed to make switching between modes simpler, and you had the addition of an individual setting. So on this it's like I star, and that enables you to mix and match between Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus different characteristics. The transmission was slightly improved in lower down, so the acceleration was better. I think they had a shorter range between the ratios, and that contributed to the quicker 0 to 60 time, but you don't physically notice that inside the car. Another big option was to be able to adapt the ride quality and the suspension settings. This car doesn't have it. It is quite an expensive option. I think it's into, I can't remember, it might be a couple of £1,000, something like that. It's definitely 4 figures. So yeah, the main differences between the first and second generation were basically on the interior. Literally nothing happened on the exterior. Now the differences between this 2016 and the 2017 model, it's a bit like the opposite. There aren't too many changes on the interior. It's all mainly exterior aesthetic. So the bumpers have changed, the lights are slightly different, and it's just a bit of an update really. Performance wise, everything's the same. Like, this is the 380 horsepower engine, same as the 2017. I think there might have been a bit of a switch around in terms of what options come as standard and not standard, and might have introduced a couple of new things, but other than that it's not too big. I think one of the gimmicks, I suppose, was to have this panel in like I'll wave a picture around somewhere, but it has like makes it look more AMG focused basically. But the steering wheel and everything like that all stayed the same. Now, what options does this particular CLA 45 have? I didn't buy the car brand new. Someone else bought it inspected before me, and I bought it at 6 months old. But it basically has most of the things that you'd need. Pretty sure I know all the options off the top of my head. So on the exterior you've got the 19-inch black wheels along with the painted red AMG calipers. Yes, they're an option. Now the car was white originally, I've just had it wrapped since I bought it. For this generation CLA 45, there wasn't like an aerodynamics package. I know on the 2017 edition, you've got the aero package with, you know, the front flicks and stuff like that, and it helps make the car look sportier, but they're all aftermarket bits that you can put on, which is what I've done, you know, with the spoiler, etc. The most important option, I think, that everyone needs to spec, whether it's an A45, CLA 45, is that thing there, the performance exhaust, because it really does transform the car. I mean, one of the biggest reasons for buying the car is the sounds that come out of the back of it, basically. Without the performance exhaust, you don't really get the pops, crackles and bangs, which, if you've watched most of my videos, it's just me being a wally, basically, with the upshifts and downshifts. So what I'll demonstrate for you is how the car sounds with the valves closed and in just comfort mode, and then I'll switch it to basically Sport Plus, valves open, and you'll get to hear all the pops and the crackles, etc. This car doesn't have sat-nav, which is quite surprising for a car that's near enough 50k. However, what it does have is Apple CarPlay. You've got something like Apple CarPlay, or I think Android have their own version, I don't know what it's called. Google Play, something, I don't know. You know, Google Maps, Apple Maps, they tend to be better than any car sat-nav, and it works very, very simply. So, I'll try and give you a demonstration. So in this car, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, I think you can only connect to Apple CarPlay via USB. I know on some newer cars that you can get wireless CarPlay. Whether there's an update for the car or the phone to make it work over Bluetooth, I'm not sure. It is pretty slick, so obviously everything else works as usual. But if you press the star button here, it'll bring you to, like, almost looks like your home screen on, if you've got an iPhone, which is what I've got here. You're able to scroll through. You've got obviously your phone, music, maps, access to your messages, and if you want to go back to the Mercedes screen, you just go to Mercedes and it takes you to how everything looks if you didn't have anything connected. The car's Bluetooth enabled anyway, so if you didn't want to use CarPlay, you can connect your phone via that way. I think that's standard Bluetooth, but the CarPlay was an option. Aside from that, there aren't too many other options I've got in this car, but you know, then again, I bought the car to drive it, and it's got all the bits that I would have wanted. The one thing that I wish it did have, but it doesn't, is the, I think it was like the AMG, I can't remember what it's called, I think it's the AMG Performance Pack or something, but it gives you the AMG steering wheel, so you get it's slightly chunkier, and you've got the Alcantara on basically where your hand should be, and the red strip around the top. I think that completes the car. It does look seriously nice, and along with that steering wheel, you also get the AMG gear selector. I think that's a bit more of a gimmick type thing. I wasn't bothered about that. I would have liked to have the steering wheel, because this steering wheel is the steering wheel you'll find in basically all CLAs and C classes, and I think even up to the E class. Now, the AMG Recaro seats you see in this car weren't an optional extra for the 2016 model. I've been told that in some countries on the 2017 model they are an optional extra, so not too sure what's going on there, but I suppose it just depends what country you're in. I'm sure the options are slightly different between countries, I suppose, not too sure. The fact that they did come as standard in this car I think is pretty good, considering, you know, in the Audi equivalent, the S3 and RS3, to have the Super Sport seats. They're an optional extra. I'm not exactly sure how much they are. I think it's between £500 and £1,000, not too sure. Anyway guys, if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you are considering something like a CLA 45, A45, post any of your comments, queries, questions down below, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.